from the real estate side, we know time you're like, okay, there's a crack, which you find sometimes you're not excited about. Sometimes it works in your advantage because as the buyer, it's something that's looking scary.
Yeah.
But we can bring someone in that's educated. We at this point, bring in a structural engineer. The structural engineer will give us, hey, this is a crack that's terrible. This is a crack you're going to have to put a lot of foundation work into, or this is a crack that, hey, this has probably been there 30 years. Nothing's changed. The floors are still level. The marble doesn't roll this way or the level doesn't go that way. So we have a chance. I think the first step is you, and then getting the structural engineer to see how bad of a crack it is.
Yeah. And if you don't mind me asking you a question for a little bit of a change, often as a home inspector, I may point out, oh, there's a significant crack. This is going to, there's buckling of the foundation. Definitely call a structural engineer. You're probably going to have them reinforce this wall.
Right.
Again, I'm doom and gloom. I really hate having wet tile, but there's your doom and gloom. Here's your situation. It's going to be quite a bit of money and time to fix this. As a real estate professional, how do you handle that with your clients? Because, if it's a first-time home buyer and they don't have that money, or, can you negotiate it? Or what are you able to say to the sellers? Is that are you, tied legally to not be able to tell them certain things?
Yes, it's really hard. There's a level of responsibility as a real estate agent, as a licensed real estate agent, to know what's going on. There's a level of if we're doing a walk and talk and we're not under contract, there are rules in our contract say we don't give you the results. So there's no results. We could say we're walking away because we didn't like what we found. Being from the listing side and kind of playing both sides of it, I tell my sellers, one, we do a lot of pre-inspections so these don't surprise us. We try to go into the situation open because I feel like at this point from the buyer side, we have leverage. And if I'm going to represent my buyers, I'm going to say, hey, there's a massive crack. I'm going to say it's the worst crack I've ever seen. This thing is tearing apart the house and we have there's going to be problems in the foundation and my buyers are really scared. So we need to take that crack and make it sound as bad as possible because we're going to try to get as much money off the property as possible so we can move forward and hopefully have enough money and sometimes even more to take care of it because we can take care of it in a smart way. If the massive amount of money doesn't work and we aren't comfortable with the bounding, the next step is to bring in the structural engineer, but we always bring in a structural engineer and then follow that up with a contractor because a structural engineer isn't going to tell you it's going to cost you this much. It's going to say, this is what you need to create. And they're an engineer, so they just draw it on paper or they describe what they need. They need bracing or epoxy or pinning. And then we bring in the guy that's going to do that epoxy, pinning, bracing, and ask them for a real number. So we know hey, this big scary problem of $40,000 actually turned into $3,000 or $6,000 and we can move forward with the deal.
Yeah, I can imagine that you kind of walk a tightrope in certain situations because sometimes real estate professionals aren't able to be there for the entire home inspection. And I say that is a question for your real estate professional. I don't know how they wrote your contract. I don't know if you can negotiate or anything. But really, this is a significant enough problem that even if you dropped the contract, the seller is going to go back on the market and then the next person's going to come in with a home inspector and hopefully that is a qualified good home inspector and they will find the same problem. They're just going to run into this wall every single time unless they just say no home inspection, which at this point in the market, a lot of people would kind of walk away from that, I think.
There is. And if at that point you want to sell as is or you want to do no home inspection, then as a seller, you're dropping a ton of value out of your house for something that you could bound and create a solution. And some people just don't have time or the money up front or a way to do it. But we try to for our sellers, work through those problems ahead of time. So we're not in a rush and we can plan forward and we know this is going to be part of the contract. So we need to take care of it. It's also I think one part we didn't talk about is how we approach inspections as agents and buyers. And I think what you're saying is a good way to relate it is this a problem that's going to come up no matter who wants to buy the house? And I think as a buyer, a lot of people, especially first-time home buyers, everything feels overwhelming. The door didn't close all the way, the GFCI wasn't correct, or there wasn't a GFCI by the sink, or the plug grounding was switched. And all things seem like a lot. But those are things that they probably can still sell the house for. So asking for those things don't make sense. But problems that they're going to have to disclose or problems that they're going to have to take care of prior to closing, those are the things that we can go for. So I tell my buyers, let's go for the big items. Let's hit the top 3 or the top 1 or the top 2. And that way everyone stays focused. That way, if we get further into it, we can find an exact dollar amount for it and we can move forward to get you the most return and the biggest bang for your buck. Where if you're just nickel and diming and say, I want a perfect house, I'd like to have a new house, that's if you're doing a resale, that's just not going to happen.